The Hugh Hewitt Show begins in 5 seconds.
Glory America, bonjour, hi Canada, greetings America. The world has found the Salvation Army kettle at HughHewitt.com, and thank you all. $174,409 raised in just under 3 weeks, headed to $250. I'm going to make that goal. I know I am. That campaign is just one of the most inspiring things to me every year that we do. Thank you for being a part of it. Your help means Christmas for kids who would otherwise not have it. A shelter for families that are out in the cold, addiction recovery services for people who are struggling with all sorts of addictions. A minute ago, Jamie Hughes gave us $163. Tim Evans, an hour ago, gave us $104. Joe Jadlow, 5 hours ago, before the show was on, $104. Thank you all. We want to help the least and the lost of the great men of the Salvation Army, folks like Captain Jerry Lester.
It always pleases me to see people reaching out to help the community because we need to stand in the gap of other people who don't have and are less fortunate.
Now, we are up to, $174,409. That means I have $75,591. That's not bad for me when it comes to math. $75,009. If one of you would like to write a check for $75,000, great. My guess is I need about 100 people to write $70 checks, or 1,000 people to write $70 checks. Something like that. So please, we got 20 days left. Get going over to HughHewitt.com. Let me begin, because it's drawing wild applause at the Washington Post. Whenever I write a column for the Washington Post, Dwayne, you know this, it's just, people just can't stop applauding, and they write the comments. I want everyone to send my Post column everywhere. The headline is, Barr's focus on abuses by the FBI is entirely warranted. That's a pun that someone else... I don't write the headlines. I wanted to write Bravo Bill Barr. But I want you to hear this, because Bill Barr is getting smashed up on some of the usual suspect cable places. And he deserves our applause. He ought to get the Medal of Freedom. I write this morning, when Attorney General William Barr, in the Washington Post, you can find it over at WashingtonPost.com. Just scroll down. It's on the landing page. When Attorney General William Barr sat down Tuesday for interviews with NBC News' Pete Williams and the Wall Street Journal Gerard Baker, the Attorney General's argument was not with Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz's report on the origins of the FBI investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. I'm going to be playing some of that Horowitz audio here shortly. Barr emphasized that he did not disagree with Horowitz's conclusions, though he deems them incomplete. The Inspector General, he noted, faced limits on the scope of his authorities and on the investigatory tools at his disposal. Barr instead turned his attention to media coverage of Russiagate. His criticisms were withering and deserved. Quote, I think our nation was turned on its head for 3 years based on a completely bogus narrative that was largely fanned and hyped by a completely irresponsible press, Barr said. Oh, really? Yes. He doesn't seem to believe that even yet. The news media generally understands that, quote, there were gross abuses and, quote, inexplicable behavior that is intolerable in the FBI. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrant on Trump advisor Carter Page ought not to have been sought, Barr made clear. Once it had been granted, the warrant's renewal ought not to have been pursued, he said. But if the FBI and Justice Department were going to pursue a renewal, as they did, they had high obligations to alert the FISA court of the weaknesses in the application. Those obligations were not met, Barr said. That is his critical point about the Russiagate investigation itself. Even more important, though, is the education that the Attorney General gave everyone on the peril of a politicized intelligence and law enforcement community. Quote, "From a civil liberties standpoint, the greatest danger to our free system is that an incumbent government uses the apparatus of the state, both to spy on political opponents, but also to use them in a way that could affect the outcome of an election," NBC was told by Bill Barr. Barr asserted that 2016 marked the first time in U.S. history that, quote, counterintelligence techniques were used against a presidential campaign by the state itself. Most in the media, including me, have long been outraged by how Russia's election interference. Barr is too. But he seemed to be saying, and with cause, where's the outrage at the interference that came from within our own government? Not from abroad. There isn't a single factual argument to be made against Barr's assertions on Tuesday. Transcripts of both the Williams and the Gerard Baker interviews should be studied in detail in con law courses as well as within the FBI, the DOJ, the intelligence community. A surveillance state unchecked by internal controls is deeply sinister. The Russiagate investigation is, at this point, an exception, a rare one, thankfully. And Barr is doing his best to guarantee it doesn't happen again. Lots of suspected wrongdoers and allies of suspected wrongdoers were on cable news proclaiming vindication after the Inspector General's report came out. Really, they were. Many had willing media accomplices. Trump derangement syndrome. But these declarations of innocence, filled with false, indeed almost palpable bravado, certainly will not work on Barr, nor should they. Barr takes his job seriously. His number one job, as he described it, is to protect the governed from those with law enforcement powers that can be abused. Now we must all wait for the report by federal prosecutor John Durham, who at Barr's direction is investigating the origins of the FBI's Russia probe. Durham deserves the same deference that former special counsel Robert Mueller received from the press. For Durham was not merely a special counsel named by a Republican acting attorney general as Mueller was. Durham was nominated and confirmed by the Senate and cleared as well and strongly endorsed by the two Democratic senators from Durham's home state of Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal and Chris Murphy. They put out a joint statement about Durham's nomination as the U.S. Attorney for the District of Connecticut. A statement that should be pondered by every pundit scribbling away or a talking head hammering away at Barr and Barr's alleged rogue actions. Here's what those two Democratic senators wrote, quote, "John Durham has earned immense respect as a no-nonsense, fierce and fair prosecutor. We are pleased that the White House has agreed with our recommendation that he serve as United States Attorney for the District of Connecticut. As an Assistant United States Attorney, John Durham has proven himself time and again in some of the most challenging and sensitive cases. The collective Beltway Manhattan media elite puts itself in the position of being disbelieved by a majority of the country because it was played, knowingly or not, by the Trump dossier compiler Christopher Steele and his accomplices. These elites should not be played again by trashing an attorney general, at least the equal in integrity and intellect of any who have gone before him." End of my column. And there is the end of the argument. Now, Horowitz, God bless Lindsey Graham. Let's start with him. All right? Lindsey Graham, cut number 4 at the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday.
So, for a moment, let's assume that there was a lawful predicate to open up a counterintelligence investigation. What has been described as a few irregularities becomes a massive criminal conspiracy over time to defraud the FISA court, to illegally surveil an American citizen, and to keep an operation open against a sitting president of the United States, violating every norm known to the rule of law. Many of you are prosecutors. Many of you have been U.S. attorneys. Many of you have been defense attorneys. Trump's time will come and go. But I hope we understand that what happened here can never happen again. Because what happened here is not a few irregularities. What happened here is the system failed. People at the highest level of our government took the law in their own hands. And when I say defraud the FISA court, I mean it. To your team, you were able to uncover and discover abuse of power I never believed would actually exist in 2019. How bad is it? It was as if J. Edgar Hoover came back to life. The old FBI. The FBI that had a chip on its shoulder and wanted to intimidate people and find out what was going on in your life, and the law be damned. Martin Luther King, and just fill in the names.
And they came back. That's what Lindsey Graham was saying. They came back. Thank you, Jamie Hughes, who donated 163, Eric Forum at 100, and my buddy, Captain Mark Vandroff, donated $36, which those of you who are observant Jews understands the special number. Thank you, Mark. Thanks all of you for supporting the Salvation Army at HughHewitt.com.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns for break in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Back America, I'm Hugh Hewitt. Thank you for listening. Great Britain is voting. We won't know anything until late afternoon, early evening, and then probably not. If it's close, we won't know anything until 11 o'clock at night. We will see. We will see. By tomorrow, I will be able to tell you everything. Great Britain's future on the line today. Most significant election in that country since Margaret Thatcher was elected the first time. So Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, goes up before the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday, and he says, first of all, this, cut number 11.
We determined that the decision to open Crossfire Hurricane was made by the then FBI Counterintelligence Division's Assistant Director, Bill Priestap, and that his decision reflected a consensus reached after multiple days of discussions and meetings among senior FBI officials. We reviewed Department and FBI policies and concluded that Assistant Director Priestap's exercise of discretion in opening the investigation was in compliance with those policies.
Stop right
we
there.
Also
okay. He is saying, and I don't agree with it, but he is saying the policies within the Bureau allowed the Bureau to begin a counterintelligence investigation of the campaign. Then he goes on to say, cut number 12.
If you got a guy who hates Trump's guts from day one, thinks Pence is stupid, and everybody who voted for Trump's an idiot, and you give him power over Trump, maybe you're making a mistake. Or again, maybe, all these people who had these biases did nothing about it. Maybe not. It doesn't really matter. We know what they did. Is it fair to say that after January 2017, when the guy who gave Steele all the information disavows the dossier, that not only they should have told the court, they should have slowed down? Do you think the second and third warrants had a legal basis after that point?
we don't reach that conclusion, and I'm not going to.
Would you have submitted a warrant application as a lawyer?
Let me put it this way. I would not have submitted the one they put in.
Okay.
But no doubt about it. It had no business going in with that.
So what I want you to know is that in January 2017, the whole foundation for surveilling Carter Page collapses. Exculpatory information is ignored. They lie to the court about what the interview was all about. Is that a fair summary so far about the January 2017?
They certainly misled. It was misleading to the court.
Okay, fair enough. And in January, about 6 months later, when they find more information that could be helpful to Mr. Page, they lie about it. Do you feel like Mr. Page was treated fairly by the Department of Justice and the FBI?
I don't think the Department of Justice fairly treated these FISAs, and he was on the receiving end of the FISA.
You would not want to be on the receiving end of this, would you?
I would not want agents or anybody failing to put forward all the information they're obligated to tell the court on. I was in AUSA. I've seen what can happen.
Do you have any idea what this means? What it means? Carter Page had comprehensive and intrusive intervention surveillance in his life. I have a friend who represented the spouse of an FBI agent who was the subject of a FISA warrant. The FBI bugged their phones, their automobiles, their house, including their bedroom. You know more about this than most. My friend writes me. At some point, this friend writes, and sooner rather than later, we should learn the details of the surveillance on Page and the number of individuals whose conversations, emails, and text messages that were intercepted. It would be stunning and abhorrent to Americans to understand what he was put through by partisan people in the Bureau. Now, Michael Horowitz said this about why did they do this? Where did the predicate come from? Cut number 13.
For example, the Crossfire Hurricane team obtained information from Steele's primary subsource in January 2017 that raised significant questions about the reliability of the Steele reporting. This was particularly noteworthy because the FISA applications relied entirely on information from the primary subsources reporting to support the allegation that Page was coordinating with the Russian government on 2016 U.S. presidential election activities. However, the FBI did not share this information with department lawyers, and it was therefore omitted from the last two renewal applications.
FISA, the FBI lawyers just lied. It's all a lie. The FBI lied. Not all of the FBI, this handful of people who Horowitz tells us weren't motivated because of anti-Trump hatred. Right. Stay tuned.
returns from break in 5 seconds.
"33 minutes after the hour. It's winter in the United Kingdom, snowing in some places, raining in others, cold everywhere as Britain votes on its future, the most significant election since Margaret Thatcher. Boris Johnson hoping for at least a majority in double digits to deliver Brexit finally to that tortured country that has been caught in a debate that goes on and on and on and never ends. But Jeremy Corbyn is promising socialist nirvana and will threaten the national security of the country if he wins. And they'll have anti-Semitism as official policy. It'll be remarkable. So we'll follow that tomorrow. In the meantime, yesterday, Senate Judiciary Committee hearing with Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General of the Department of Justice, focusing on the abuse of FISA by the FBI, senior management, DOJ, Department of Justice carelessness. There was one 8-minute stretch of Lindsey Graham. You've just got to hear cut number 5.
Who ran this thing? The people were handpicked by McCabe, the number 2 guy at the FBI. The supervisory agent, the Deputy Assistant Director for Counterintelligence, is Peter Strzok. He's a big player in all things Crossfire Hurricane. Lisa Page, you may have heard of her. Who was she? She was an FBI lawyer working for McCabe. These are 2 central characters in this debacle. Let me tell you a little bit about who these people are and where they're coming from. Thanks to a lot of hard work by people for Mr. Horowitz, the FBI, and others, here's what we know. Strzok, the frontline supervisor, February the 12th, 2016. Oh, he's, Trump, abysmal. I keep hoping the charade will end and people will just dump him. The problem then is that Rubio will likely lose to Cruz. I never quite made it, and I can understand why they would not consider me a serious candidate. The Republican Party is utter shambles. When was the last competitive ticket they offered? March 3rd, 2016. Page, God, Trump is a loathsome human. Strzok, oh my God, he's an idiot. And you know what? Newsrooms all over the country, people are nodding. This represents the attitude of a lot of people in America, and you can have that attitude, but you shouldn't be in the journalism business. You shouldn't be at the FBI. If you were in the military and you said anything like this about a commander-in-chief, you'd be charged with a crime. Remember the McChrystal debacle, where they had a barroom discussion with a reporter from the Rolling Stone? What's the takeaway? Don't go to a bar with a Rolling Stone reporter. They started talking about how they didn't like Joe Biden, and I was one of the first people to say that is out of bounds. You can have all the political opinions you want, but if you're an officer in the United States military, you will park those opinions and you will not speak ill of the commander-in-chief. But that obviously is not a rule at the FBI, Department of Justice. March 16th, 2016. I cannot believe Donald Trump is likely to be actual serious candidate for president. July 16th, we're getting closer to when this thing opens. And wow, Donald Trump is an enormous douche. Again, a lot of people agree with that. Trump barely spoke, but the first thing out of his mouth was, we're going to win so big. The whole thing is like living in a bad dream. July the 19th, 2016. Trump is a disaster. I have no idea how destabilizing his presidency would be. And a lot of people believe that. You're entitled to believe that, but you should not be an investigator. July the 30th, the investigation's open. And damn, this feels momentous about the investigation because this matters. The others one did too, but that was to ensure we didn't F something up. This matters because this matters. So super glad to be on this voyage with you. I hope you understand what this voyage was about. August 8, 2016, 3 days before Strzok was named the frontline supervisor. He's not ever going to become president, right? Page to Strzok. Strzok, no, he won't. We'll stop it. These are the people in charge. August 15, 2016. I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk, that the American people will pick their president, is what they're saying. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. August 26, 2016. Just went to a Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support. People in charge. October 11, 2016. Currently fighting with Stu for the FISA. Stu was a lawyer who thought this thing was not on the up and up. Stood his ground until he couldn't stand it anymore. Eventually got run over. October the 19th. I'm all riled up. Trump is an effing idiot, is unable to provide a coherent answer. The New York Times probability numbers are dropping every day. I'm scared for our organization. November the 3rd, 2016. Oh my God, this is effing terrifying. Referencing an article entitled, "A Victory by Trump Remains Possible." November the 9th, 2016. Are you ever going to give out your calendars? Some kind of depressing. Maybe it should be the first meeting of the secret society. November the 13th. I bought all the president's men. I figure I needed to brush up on Watergate. November the 13th, 2016. Finally, two pages away from finishing all the president's men. Page to Strzok. Did you know the president resigns at the end? Strzok, what? God, that would be so lucky. May 18th, 2017. The date Page accepted a position on the special counsel's team. For me, in this case, I personally have a sense of unfinished business. I unleashed with MYE, whatever that means. Now I need to fix it and finish it. Strzok. Who gives a F one more assistant director or whoever, an investigation leading to impeachment? May 2017. You and I both know the odds are nothing. If I thought it was likely, I'd be there, no question. I hesitate in part just because of my gut sense and concern there's no big there. Talking about impeachment. May 22nd, 2017. I'm torn. I think, no, I'm more replaceable than you are in this. I'm the best for it, but there are others who can do it okay. You're different and more unique. This is yours. Talking to Page. All right.
Horowitz said there wasn't political motivation, but there were 17 instances of abuse of surveillance laws. You make up your own mind. I think the Inspector General is wrong, but luckily John Durham gets to go wherever he wants to go, and he has subpoena power, and he can compel testimony. He has a grand jury. He can go to the intelligence community. He can subpoena anyone who's in the United States. He can get to the bottom of this, and he will. Bill Barr is the best person in the world for this job right now. He's under attack this morning in the Washington Post by Eric Holder, Mr. Fast and Furious, who is held in contempt by Congress. The wingman for President Obama is attacking Bill Barr this morning. Durham's getting close. Getting close to something. I don't know what it is, but he's getting close. I have a piece in the Washington Post this morning praising Barr. Didn't know Holder was writing his piece. Glad mine's there. because, inside the Beltway, you won't find a lot of people who will say the obvious. You can't have the government running elections with their thumb on the scale and have a free country. You can't do it. And Barr knows that, and he said it, and he's getting to the bottom of it. Great Britain picks today. We'll tell you all about it tomorrow. What do the markets think in advance of this enormously important election for the West? Well, the Dow Jones yesterday was up. That was brought to you by AndrewandTodd.com. Andrew Del Rey, Todd Avakian, AndrewandTodd.com. That's where you go. You fill in a couple of questions. They'll come back to you and say, so you got a house. It's worth $150,000. You've got a mortgage of $100,000. We can get you $20,000 out, make it a $120,000 mortgage. Maybe lower your payment, maybe shorten your term, or do whatever your numbers is. If you've got money in your house or you just need to refinance to lower your payments, that's fine. They don't. And by the way, they tell people sometimes you got nothing to do. You got the best loan going. Don't touch anything in your loan. But if you need to get cash out to pay for medical bills or consolidate debt or pay for college, AndrewandTodd.com. There was Sierra Pacific Mortgage. You can also call them at 888-888-1172. Today, they are bringing you the market report that yesterday was green. The Dow was up 29. The NASDAQ was up 37. The S&P was up 9. But everything's a little bit red this morning. I think they're worried about England. S&P is down 5. NASDAQ down 22. Down 64. And what's the 10-year Treasury? It's down to 1.79. It's a great day to refinance. Gold is up to 1487 right now. I think markets are jittery because of Great Britain. They know that Corbyn will tank the economy in the United Kingdom if Corbyn is the prime minister. It'll be a disaster. It'll be a freaking run on the pound, and everyone knows that. That's why I'm hoping these reports of the large turnout or people who say, I got to go vote against Corbyn. I got to go vote for Johnson. We won't know until tonight, but I'll be able to talk with you about it at length tomorrow. Do not miss that. Do not miss that. Don't miss the Salvation Army Red Kettle either. Say a little prayer for Great Britain and then go over to HughHewitt.com and make a contribution to the Red Kettle. It's at the very top. I do this every year. We're having a great year this year. You're being very, very generous. $176,000 donated. Mark Edge just gave us $260. Thank you, Mark. Mark and Carol Christensen donated $52. $50 was donated anonymously. Philip M. donated $520. Thank you, Philip. Kevin Bauer, $150. Maybe twice. Dan Horan, $25. Lewis Harper, $27.04. Thank you all. It all matters a great deal. You're feeding people who are hungry. You are clothing people who have nothing to wear in the cold. You're giving a shelter to people who are living in their car. Thank you. Salvation Army doing the most good. I got my bag of Relief Factor up. It's my final reminder of the day, and in the way of the camera is my Pellegrino, so I'll get out of the way. Resveratrol, Icarian, Curcumin, Omega, the 4 natural supplements that for millennia have been known to assist in the support of the temporary relief of minor aches and pains. They don't go away. If you've got a bad shoulder, if you've taken it doesn't go away, but you want to reduce that pain. You got a commuting ache. You people who are stuck on the Beltway right now in D.C. or on the Schuylkill in Philadelphia, or you're down in Atlanta right in the middle of town, or you're out in California beginning your 2-hour drive into the valley or to the city. You're out in Moreno Valley headed to L.A. and you're listening to me early. You should be taking ReliefFactor.com every day. $19.95 gets the starter pack sent your way. Go and get started today. Join the tens of thousands of people who find relief there and come back. One more segment of today's Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are sponsored in part by the American Energy Alliance, AmericanEnergyAlliance.org.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Hewitt, thanks so much for listening today. I got to play you two more things. First of all, John Ratcliffe in the House Judiciary Committee yesterday. He's a prosecutor. He knows what he's doing. He just encapsulates the nightmare that we are living through with this impeachment circus and the FBI out of control. Cut number 2.
Every time Democrats get caught trying to frame this president with some crime he didn't commit, they follow up by accusing him of obstructing their efforts to frame him for the things that he never did in the first place. I'd like to say you can't make this stuff up, but it is all made up. I got to concede, though, to my colleagues, y'all move fast. The day after we watched the Russian conspiracy and obstruction of justice claims from the special counsel go down like the Hindenburg, the next frame job started with a phone call where the only two people on the call both said it was a great call and none of the things that the Democrats alleged happened. But I'll admit, this time, it's hard to blame some of my colleagues on this committee for doing too much this time around. I concede that because the once respected House Judiciary Committee with jurisdiction over the Constitution and impeachment was humiliatingly excluded until the bitter end from participating at all in matters involving the Constitution and impeachment. 1 week. History will reflect that the House Judiciary Committee's involvement in the impeachment of President Donald J. Trump started with a hearing on Wednesday, December 4th, and ended with a markup that started 7 days later on Wednesday, December 11th. How does that sound for fairness? How does that sound for due process? The founders warned and feared that today might come. Alexander Hamilton said the greatest danger of impeachment would be depriving a president of due process. The greatest danger, Hamilton said, would be if impeachment was used politically by a party that had the most votes in the House, instead of being used on the basis of guilt or innocence for specified crimes under the Constitution. And today, the Committee of Jurisdiction, after only 1 week, is marking up a bill to impeach a president for crimes that aren't specified under the Constitution by the party that has the most votes in the House and pledged to impeach him from the first day of his presidency. Today's Democrats are the founders' worst nightmare come true.
Absolutely right, John Ratcliffe. And Lindsey Graham, I want to drive home that while impeachment's being abused, the FBI just abused their powers at the top in 2016. Lindsey Graham, cut number 3.
I'm going to assume something for the sake of argument. That there was a lawful predicate to open up a counterintelligence investigation. And I want you to know the standard to open one up is about like that. And I also want you to know a counterintelligence investigation is not a criminal investigation. They're not trying to solve a crime. They're trying to stop foreign powers from interfering in America. That a counterintelligence investigation is designed to protect Americans from foreign influence. I want the American people to know there was an effort to affect Hillary Clinton's campaign by foreign actors. The FBI picked up that effort, they briefed her about it, and they were able to stop it. We will be receiving a defensive briefing tomorrow as a committee from the FBI to tell us all about what we should be watching for. And they may be some specific threats against us. I don't know. But I know they're going to brief us to protect us, not to surveil us. And here's what I want every American to know. From the time they opened up Crossfire Hurricane till this debacle was over, They never made any effort to brief Donald Trump about suspected problems within his campaign. They had one briefing talking about, the Russians are out there, you better beware. Nothing about Carter Page, nothing about Papadopoulos, nothing about the other people that they thought might be working with the Russians. Why did they not tell him that? I hope you can give us an answer. Bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, a counterintelligence investigation is a good thing until it becomes a bad thing.
Stop right there. Lindsey Graham was magnificent yesterday. Mitch McConnell even better, nominating and getting confirmed the 50th appeals court judge. All is not lost, but what is happening, and Bill Barr is making sure it happens, read my Washington Post column this morning, is that this never happens again. We cannot have a secret government within a government impacting our election. It is the founder's nightmare. It is Stasi come to our shores. We've never had this before. We had COINTELPRO. They never went after a presidential campaign. They went after Martin Luther King. We stopped that. And as Lindsey Graham said to Christopher Wray, you got problems. And unless you own them and really dig into them, you're not going to fix them. Good hearing yesterday. Great report. John Durham, we're waiting. Bill Barr, keep it up. Mitch McConnell, keep confirming judges. And all you great Americans like Grace and Richard Kilty, who just donated $260, keep donating to the Salvation Army at HughHewitt.com. Go Great Britain, be great again. We'll tell you about it tomorrow on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.